Hello and welcome to Ikike Digest, your learning space on Home FTV. I am Kome Odomo. On Ikike Digest, we aim to continuously bring to light issues affecting communities and our food system. We also highlight policy gaps that do not meet the needs of our people and provide our listeners with adequate environmental information. In today's edition, we will be looking at the topic, Globalizing Environmental Justice from the Grassroots. Globalizing environmental justice from the grassroots. We do know that environmental justice emphasizes the fair distribution of environmental benefits and burdens, particularly addressing the disparities faced by marginalized communities. Grassroots organizations around the world often serve as the frontline advocates for sustainable practices, climate resilience, and equitable resource management. Their efforts continue invaluable to local knowledge, culturally rooted approaches to global environmental challenges. And our guest today is visiting Nigeria from the other continent, which we will find out from her how that experience has been. Trina Jackson has nearly 20 years of community-based experience as an organizer, facilitator, and strategist in social justice movements. Trina has been the Solidarity Program Officer, for the U.S. Internationalist Program since 2020. She is on the board of the U.S. Climate Justice Alliance and a member of the Black Caucus. Trina loves yoga and roller skating. You're welcome, Trina.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, so has your experience been witnessing the Nigerian issues, the environmental issues affecting Nigeria firsthand? What's your experience so far?
Yes, thank you. It's been a combination. It's been both very inspiring to see the mobilization of people that are directly impacted by environmental injustice. That would include environmental racism, the extraction, the degradation to the planet, the impact on their livelihood, on their culture. And so it has been very inspiring to meet community leaders and activists who are organizing. And it's also been very painful to see the challenges that people are faced with and hearing the stories of how it impacts their daily life, their families, their relationship to the land and to traditions that are long part of the cultural fabric of the community. It's been very sobering to see the scale, and it's been outrageous. I'm angered by the level of injustice and the lack of accountability for corporations and leaders who are not there for the people. And so it's all of those things. It's a mix of different emotions and feelings. I'm very honored to be invited by the community to learn and listen and to share stories. And I am humbled by the power of people's voices and their demands for justice.
Yeah, so how can your understanding of the Nigerian struggle, how can it enhance the strategies that you want to use in addressing or changing the resource management?
Yeah, so I think one of the ways that I would answer this question is by thinking about my own story in the U.S. context. So I was raised in a community that is impacted by this kind of extraction, this what we call environmental racism, the deliberate impacts on Black communities, poor communities in the U.S. And this is done by putting toxic waste dumps or what we call municipal waste centers closest to neighborhoods that are poor, that are Black, that are perceived to be sacrifice zones for like these polluting industries. And so I think when I reflect on my own story, it helps me see the global similarities, that these are global systems of extraction and pollution and oppression. And so what I think is that the grassroots mobilizing, people coming together, people identifying commonalities across borders and contexts, I think that I think that presents the biggest opportunity for there to be transformation and accountability and healing as well, because I think that's a really important part of our organizing.
Yeah. So earlier you said a lot was learned from the communities where you visited.
That's right.
And I also want to believe that you saw some cultural practices.
Absolutely.
So how do you intend to bring cultural sensitivity back home? How do you intend to push I know you've answered it somewhat, but I still want you to emphasize, how can this be applied back home for you?
Yes, so the organization that I work for is Grassroots International, and our role is to accompany social movements. And one of the ways that we do that is by acknowledging the role of culture, stories, practices, traditions, and by making sure that we learn from the communities impacted and how they use that. So that is how I believe we can prioritize that in our own work, is to make sure that we are understanding the role of the cultural practices, and that is just important as policy. That is just important as holding corporations accountable. That is just as important as other kind of protections, is the role of culture, because that is what sustains communities over the long haul, especially when there are setbacks, when there are difficulties, because it takes that level of commitment. So I would say that these cultural practices help us to understand what is required for people that are impacted to sustain this fight over the long period of time.
Yeah, so what are some of the challenges that are being faced in communities in the US?
Well, very similar to what we see here: a lack of resources, a lack of support for the infrastructure for people to organize themselves. We see a dismissal of their value, a dehumanization of their existence, a criminalization of their organizing. We see very similar methods to suppress people, to deny their human rights, their cultural rights, to continue to perpetuate systems of domination. And so those are some very similar themes that I see. And so some of the needs are the same, that we create spaces for political education, for people to articulate for themselves what are their challenges and what are the needs, what are the solutions to those challenges. So that feels like that's a global strategy for how we support social movements.
Okay. Environmental degradation is a global challenge that is facing and threatening lives and our ecosystem. We will take a short break, and when we return, we will hear from Trina how much we can mobilize from grassroots level to nip this challenge in the bud. Stay tuned.
Are you looking for a conducive and serene environment to carry out your research works and need the right content to be at your best? Are you a lover of academics and intellectual books? Do you seek proper works of research for knowledge enhancement? Or you want a place to read at your leisure? The Home F Library and Resource Center is the right place to be. With our well-arranged and fully stocked bookshelves, searching for your preferred genres and authors is made much easier than you could ever imagine. With our well-experienced librarians and guides, you've got a reading and research pleasure to catch up with. At Home F Library and Resource Center, Benin City, Nigeria, it is simply an unforgettable experience.
I'll have to say this as soundbite because, I'd say I've been watching your episodes, and I've been looking forward to like my own opportunity to sit with, Kome in nature, and to have a conversation about climate and nature. So I've been looking for, so I'm very happy to now have my turn, to contribute to this very serene and very beautiful conversation.
Welcome back. You've been listening to Trina Jackson, who is a community-based organizer and a strategist in the social justice movement. Before we went on the break, Trina was telling us some of the challenges that communities in the US face, which is very similar to what we face here in Nigeria. So we would like to know from you that how can we involve community in the struggle, in the fight that we do? How can we link communities from the different continents?
Yeah, thank you. This is a really important question, and I think one of the strategies that is least resourced, and that is the way that people can share stories across these different contexts. What we try to do at Grassroots International is to create a method or ways that people can do that. One of those ways is through learning exchanges, where we want to create opportunities, whether it's through travel or going to conferences or other ways, media like we're doing here, art, and other creative outlets, is to learn from each other, to identify the common struggles, and for us to be global actors in solidarity with each other. So I believe in people power, I believe in collective solidarity, and I believe that that is what it's going to require, because these are global systems of domination that have deep, deep histories, where profit and power are at the center, and that we need to claim that for ourselves. What does it mean for us to be in power as communities, affected, and for us to chart a new future for ourselves?
Yeah, so in charting a new future for ourselves,
Yes.
How can your experience from Nigeria lead a sustainable policy recommendation, if I should put it that way, that would help on a global scale?
Well, I think one of the challenges we face with policies is that we have some policies already in existence, but they're not implemented and they're not followed through. So we need stronger demands for accountability. When governments, when our own leaders that we put in positions of power to represent us, and then they are like co-opted or persuaded by corporations not to do that, and we know the ways that they are persuaded not to do that. We need to hold them accountable. And so we need stronger accountability measures. We don't often lack policies. What we lack is accountability and follow through. And I feel like that is what we need to focus some of our attention on. And we're always learning. So, policies are meant to be adapted to new conditions and new learnings. So we also need adaptability as part of our strategy.
True. Yeah, so as a social justice strategist, what's the connection between social justice and social and environmental justice? What's the connection?
Well, this is a really important question. So in the US right now, in the climate justice movement, what we understand is that it is a confluence of all of the different systems. Capitalism, we say white supremacy, we say patriarchy. And so the climate is a crisis of those ideologies. And this is really what we need to challenge. There are ideologies, there's the media, there are institutions, there's extraction, there are all of these things. But we need to understand that the climate is not only about the land, it's not only about the water, it's about our relationship to these resources. And so that needs to be a really important component of the way that we organize as grassroots movements across the context. To understand that this is about a system of relationships, and to focus on that, relationships that we have with each other, our stories, our commonalities, also our differences, and that's something that we can value.
Okay, so before I let you go for today, can you just give us a little eyes into your stay in Nigeria, the visits to all the beautiful places, beautiful and polluted places that were visited.
It's been wonderful. I remember when we were greeted by a community of women that is being organized by Kebekache, which is a collaborator with HOMEF. And I was overwhelmed with how we were welcomed by the women, the power of their voices. They were singing, they were dancing. This is the role of culture in creating an atmosphere of connection, of celebration, of joy. And those are really important components to our organizing work. Women and women's leadership and feminism is very, very important. So the importance of women's leadership, community women, rural women, peasant women, these are all really, really important elements of our organizing, in that we cannot have climate justice, we cannot have environmental justice without gender justice. Women's power, women's leadership must be at the center, because women hold so many of our community institutions. And so whether it's our childcare, our food, procurement, growing food, and so that's what I have learned from this trip, is the power of women.
So let's talk about the Nigeria Socio-Ecological Convergence that took place in Abuja.
Yes.
That you partook. How did that convergence shape things for you?
Yeah, well, it was really interesting for me to see the different states and the different contexts within the region, and to understand the differences. So West Africa as a region has lots of different contexts. And for me, it was very educational to see that, to see the different strategies, to see how different states within the region are approaching these challenges. And they're very different culturally, linguistically, historically. All of those things came together. So it was great to see people in one space having dialogue about these differences and challenges, and that, you know, that's part of the cultural fabric of a region that is working to address these challenges. So it was very rich for me, and I am so grateful to have been here to see that.
Thank you very much, Trina, for gracing us with your presence today in our studio. And we're happy that you took time to be here. And we do hope that we will see you some other time.
Thank you.
And we will have this conversation again.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I am so honored to be part of this conversation. I admire your leadership. You're like a hero to me, a shiro to me is what we say. And so thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And we've come to the end of today's episode. We hope that you find it very interesting, and we look forward to see you in our subsequent editions. Remember to visit our website, www.homef.org, and follow us on all our social media platforms on Echo Homef. I remain your host, Kome Odomo.